Good morning, Wakahachi Wetland. Today is Monday, June 24th, 2024. This is the latest I've ever come out here, I believe, to photograph here at the wetlands. Reason for it is I just purchased a brand new Nikon Z8 and the 180 to 600 millimeter lens, and I'm going to be trying that out for the first time out here today. So I've taken my first photo with the Nikon Z8 and the 180 to 600 millimeter lens, and it was at a cattle egret. It was a good opportunity. The bird took off flying for a quick moment from one branch to another, and I managed to capture quite a few images as I'm shooting at 30 frames per second. I do have the custom function 1 button at the front of the camera set to where I can press it in and I'll have a bird eye autofocus tracking. One thing that I'm really enjoying with the Z8 is how big the screen is when you're looking through the viewfinder. Very enjoyable. So for the autofocus tracking, I have the camera set to where it's a subject detect. So it's, has multiple options. Mainly because I didn't really know how to get it on bird tracking autofocus. Fortunately, I had already set that front custom function button to a bird eye autofocus tracking, so it's worked out pretty good. One thing I just picked up on, remember I'm using this camera for the first time, so all these images that I've shot for earlier this morning that I thought I was shooting in RAW, they're not RAW because I was shooting at 30 frames per second, which makes them all JPEGs. A couple of initial thoughts using the Nikon Z8. Took me a little bit to find where the ISO setting is inside the menus because I had it on auto ISO, and the ISO is much higher than it needed to be. I don't know what it is, but every time I try to use auto ISO, it's just always higher than what I would like it to be. On every camera system that I've used thus far, I need to do a better job of learning how to use that. This one's working out pretty good so far. Had a real good opportunity of a bird took off quickly, and I managed to frame it up and take a couple of shots, and I'm hoping that those images turned out sharp because that would be pretty impressive because it was something that just snuck up on me, and it'll be interesting to see how those images turned out. Now, I've spent the entire season photographing with the Fuji system, and this is, like I mentioned, the first time I'm using the Nikon Z8 and the telephoto lens. And what I've done is I've mounted it on a tripod because I have quite the learning curve, and I want to make sure that it's comfortable for me to work on the camera and get into the menus while it's being held by a tripod. So that I can go ahead and dig into things a little bit more comfortable. So I am working with a tripod, which is not something I've done a lot of this year. I'm finding that it's going pretty good thus far, and it's not inconveniencing me in any way. So we'll see how it goes for the rest of the day, especially when I get out to the St. Augustine Alligator Farm after this. I'm going to spend about 3 days photographing with this system and see how things work out for me. One thought regarding the shutter on the Z8, I have it where it's actually making a pretty loud shutter sound. That actually may be something I need to change or lower the sound a little bit later on. But one thing that I'm finding quite interesting is how accurate the shutter is with the Fuji for sure. If I touched that shutter button and it was on a continuous drive where I'm shooting a multitude of frames, I would never be able to just keep it at one. But thus far with a Nikon, I've been able to just get one shot off if that's what my intention was, and that's pretty impressive. So I'm pretty happy thus far with the way the shutter performs. One thing that I noticed, so when I press that front button to go ahead and use the bird eye autofocus tracking, the interesting thing is when I press the button, the viewfinder seems to get brighter. So I don't know if that's normal. Perhaps it's used so that you can actually see where the box is going. So I need to go ahead and figure out what that's all about. I'm assuming it's something that's normal and not something I dislike too much, except since I am shooting manually and I'm using it where I see the exposure through the viewfinder, it kind of throws me off a little bit. Another thing that I've done with my settings is I'm using the neutral image profile. I don't know exactly how you call it with Nikon. I'm used to all those beautiful Fujifilm profiles. My understanding is that's more true to what you're seeing in the rear screen when you're looking at the image, especially since I'm shooting RAW. This will give me an opportunity to actually see what the image is coming out like without any of the JPEG cooking going on. One issue that I did have with the autofocus one time there, I was trying to focus on two birds that actually had, the background was quite far from them. So I don't understand why the camera was being thrown off, but I could not get it to focus. I would have to focus on some branches in front of it and try to get it to focus that way. But then when I would get back on the bird, it would go out of focus again. I tried the eye autofocus tracking for birds, and that wasn't working either. But then interestingly enough, I had a bird that was flying, and there was trees behind him, but the focus was tracking quite well. And when I started to shoot, you know, at least in the viewfinder, it looked like it actually picked up the bird and didn't have any issues with the trees in the background. So kind of interesting that I struggled with a static subject with the background that was quite far from the bird. And then when it's flying, it didn't cause any issues. One thing I will say is that the light was a bit harsh and contrasty maybe, and perhaps that's what was causing the issue with the two birds that I was trying to get the camera to focus on. One thing that's kind of interesting is because it's such a sizable camera and it feels really good on the hand, I thought that I would be fine without purchasing the battery grip. Certainly I wanted to see how I felt about it. Interestingly enough, I mean, I have the camera mounted on a tripod, and still I feel that I may want the battery grip. Not necessarily because of the vertical shooting. My bottom pinky finger still falls off the camera a little bit, and I've just been shooting with the vertical grips for a lifetime, and it seems like I may end up having to purchase one. Not too happy about it. I haven't heard the best things about it, and it's extremely expensive. It's almost $400, so that's not a good thing. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here, and hope you guys like and subscribe, and please provide some feedback.